Okay, we are live.
All right. Good evening, all of my dear friends and relatives. And thank you for joining us again for another week here at Good Medicine Way. I'm very excited because we get to hear part two of what our uncle was sharing. Uncle Casey, But yes, since it is still technically the New Year, New Year, I decided to go ahead and still wear a little something to represent my people, But I am actually coming to you from the ancestral homelands of the Caddo, Comanche, Kiowa, Osage, and Wichita nations here in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And Good Medicine Way comes to you from the land of the Tewa people or the Pueblo people, the Apache and the Dene. Their ancestral homelands was around Albuquerque, New Mexico, where Good Medicine Way comes to you from. Um, I wanted to give a little shout out to all the tribes who are celebrating 100 years of citizenship and having voting rights here in the United States. The Indian Citizenship Act authorized Native Americans and American Indian or Indigenous people the right to vote. And that happened yesterday, June 2nd, in 1924. So I just wanted to give a little brief history about that because it's very important that we have our voices be shared during elections time, especially. But yes, okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and get and get to hear from our Uncle Casey Church tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to my brother Eshe from South Carolina, as he offers our opening or directional prayer. So go ahead and take it away, brother.
Mateusz, thank you. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm going to go ahead and read a different variation of a Four Directions prayer. I was trying to find something that was a little different. Don't want to keep it too monotonous, so it loses its meaning. But I'm going to do one that I found online that doesn't sound too cliche. So I want something with meaning still. So we'll go ahead and start. Let's start the East. O Creator, maker of all that is, who always has been, may the rising sun remind us of you, who gives us great wisdom and strength. Help us, your people, as we walk your sacred path in life, that our generations to come will have light as they walk your path. For the rays of the rising sun in the east, we thank you, Creator. I'm going to face south. O good Creator, you send us soft winds and rains from the south. May goodness always be in our hearts and gentleness in our speech. We are reminded of the things that make us happy in this life, friends, family, and you. O great power and source of all life, help us to walk with you always. For the soft winds and rains that come from the south, we thank you, Creator. Facing west. Creator of the setting sun, we send our voices up to you. We pray, Great One, that our journey through this life may know the harmony and rhythm of the setting sun. We pray that we may look longingly towards the sunset of our life and feel your greatness and beauty within us. For the sun's brilliance as it sets in the west, we thank you, Creator. Facing north, Great One, our Creator, our eyes are turned towards you, where you speak to us from the north. You are power over the harshness of our lives, stormy winds and great droughts. You are the Great One who calms our fears and anxieties. Give us strength and courage to walk the strong winds in life by walking with you, for the protection that you provide us. We thank you, Creator. I hope that it be so.
All right, thank you, brother. That was very beautiful too. Good searching. Yeah. But yes. And just as we open with prayer, we also open with song. So I'm going to hand it over to Brian, who will be singing praises, singing the song praises, So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right, yeah. The it's not exactly how Bill Miller does it, but it's pretty close.
We're gonna need shakers.
You can have shakers for sure.
If you want.
There you go.
Okay. That's a pretty good.
Praise you for the river, the mountains and the streams. I praise you for the eagle, the visions and the dreams. I praise all your creation, the mountains and the streams. I praise you for the eagle, the visions and the dreams. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Praise you for my people, the mountains and the streams. I praise you for the eagle, the visions and the dreams. We praise you, all your children, the mountains and the streams. I praise you for the eagle, the visions and the dreams. The visions and the dreams. The visions and the dreams. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Hello. I was like, did it down. Just kidding. That was awesome, Brian. Yes. Hey, everybody who had their shakers. I heard you kind of shaking it, so that's great. Hey. But yes, yes. But yeah, I do enjoy hearing Brian offer up some praises. Just kidding. But yes. Okay. So now we're going to be going into a creation insight with our dear relative Karen. So I'm very excited to hear what she has to share. So go ahead and take it away, Karen.
Thank you. I'm coming from the Ojibwe and Potawatomi lands, and also there's a resituated Chickamauga group among us from the Cherokee. And I'll be talking tonight on weeds to meet our needs, the dandelion. Said, the dandelion is found on every continent of the world except for Antarctica, which makes sense. It's also found in the ancient literature of like Egypt, Greece, and Rome. But its origin appears to have come through Asia, which is probably why we have it on our land. It's debatable, according to white scholars, if it is native to our land or if it was brought over later from Europeans. But we have enough native references to the dandelion that it probably came over when our people entered our land. Tuscarora called it the sturgeon because when the sturgeon would start to run, the dandelions would show up. And there's a Agla Lakota chief, Sean Sherman, who has written a lot about the dandelion. The Ojibwe have a traditional story on the dandelion, and the Tlingit, I've never heard it pronounced, consider it not only for medicine, but also a symbol of a blessing. So that gives you a different perspective than the modern world who thinks it's a curse in the garden. So I want to show you I'm sure you all know what a dandelion is, but I want to show you perspective. Let's see if you can see that. This dandelion with its root is one of the wild ones not in my garden. This is the same species. It is a wild one, but this one in better soil, turn it this way, you can see it, is a much larger leaf. And I did nothing for this one. The only difference is it's in quality soil. When a dandelion comes up and the leaves are flat on the ground, that's a sign that the soil is very poor. But as the leaves come up like this, with the stem and the flower, that's an indication that the soil is improving because of what the dandelion is doing for us. It brings the minerals up through the stem and into the topsoil. So it actually will heal the land by leaving the dandelions in their place. The dandelion flower can have over 500 seeds in the head, and it can travel over 160 feet, and it brings the soil minerals up, and it can lay dormant in the soil for up to 7 years and still then come forth as a good dandelion. So it's very patient. It can be very patient. One of the best nutritional benefits of the dandelion is for the cleansing and the strengthening of liver and kidneys and all the elements that go with that. So if you have skin issues, that's usually a liver or kidney issue. So the bitter taste tannins in it is really what actually enhances the health from it. So it's especially good also for lowering any kind of swelling in the body. So if you tend to have arthritis from eating white flowers, it can eliminate the swelling in your hands or your legs or your knees. So that's one of the greatest benefits of the dandelion. It is super nutritious, and I compared it to kale, and it beats kale hands down. And we call kale a super vegetable, but it beats it in all areas, including it has B9, which is very important in when children are growing in the womb. It has more calcium, iron, potassium, magnesium, copper, and manganese than kale. It's higher, almost double in fiber than kale of equal amounts, along with the antioxidants. And it's very interesting. I read this, and I wish I had kept the source, but I did remember the story. In South Korea, during the time of famine, and this was like in the 90s, there was a family that lived almost exclusively on all the parts of the dandelion as their food source. And for over a year, that's basically all they had. And it kept them in perfect health. And they felt that it was the dandelion that did that. So you can use it fresh. You can slice it into foods like eggs or carbohydrates, or cook it like spinach. You can infuse it with the heads, the flowers. You do that for about 3 weeks and then pull the flowers out. If you don't, it'll ferment, and I've had to throw oils away because I did it wrong. So take it out, and then the nutrients are infused into the oil, and you can use it for toppings. But the interesting thing that I just recently had learned about is drying it, and you can air dry it by hanging it on string where there's a lot of air movement, or you can do it solar drying or electric dehydrating. I did the electric. I did almost a gallon, and I'll show you in a minute here. I then powdered it. I have a mortar and pestle, and this is the result. A gallon of dandelions gave me about a cup of powder, and it's super concentrated, so that you can take it and throw it in your rice, or throw it in your potatoes, or throw it in your eggs, and you get dandelions without having to go out and get them if you don't have them in the middle of winter. The tradition for Native foraging is that you take no more than 1/3 of the leaves off of a plant and no more than 1/3 of the plants in the area. That allows 1/3 to go back to the soil or for the growth, and 1/3 to go for the animals if they eat it. So that's a real good standard that I try really hard to follow. The Ojibwe has a story on the dandelion, but I don't know if I can share it because I didn't get permission from them. But if you want to, you can look it up online, the Ojibwe story of the dandelion. It's a really sweet story. And that's all I have for Creation Insights today.
All right. Thank you, Karen. That was very, very insightful. I didn't know that there were so many great uses for dandelions. So when I see one, I might start picking them now. So, but thank you. Thank you. But yeah, so we're going to go into the Lord's Prayer now, which will be led by Brian. It is from the First Nations version. I cannot exactly remember which one it was, if it was Mark or Matthew. But, it'll still be good, eh? So I'm going to go ahead and let Brian do his thing. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right. Yeah, and if you remember any of the sign language, you can throw that in there too. I probably know about 1/3 of it. I just start doing it without thinking about it. So that way people know why I'm waving around. Okay. But anyway, here we go. Creator sets free, shows us how to pray. O great Spirit, our Father from above, we honor your name as sacred and holy. Bring your good road to us, where the beauty of your ways in the spirit world above is reflected in the earth below. Provide for us day by day the elk, the buffalo, the salmon, the corn, the squash, and the wild rice, all the things we need for each day. Release us from the things we have done wrong. In the same way, we release others who have done wrong to us. Guide us away from the things that tempt us to stray from your good road, and set us free from the evil one and his worthless ways. Aho, may it be so. All right.
Okay, so I was a little bit behind, a little bit rusty. We are missing you, Leah McCoo, wherever you are. We hope that you are doing great, and that your family is doing great as well. Eh? We hope to see you again soon, eh? So we can brush up. Eh? But thank you, Brian. Thank you. Now we'll be going into our smoke signals and giveaway time. So I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to either Brian or Uncle Casey to go ahead and do our special announcements time. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I'll step in. Can everybody hear me? All right, good. Yeah, well, everybody knows the announcement. I'm here in South Dakota right now, getting ready for this year's 21st running of the NATE Symposium that will be taking place here. And this year, I'll be presenting a paper this year. So a big announcement. The other thing is that we'll have our book group tomorrow night. Hopefully I can make it, depending on things that are scheduled here in town. And the book Native by Caitlin Curtis. And I just sent a copy to Donna, so she should be receiving that. Hopefully she received it today, and then she'll catch up with us on that there. And Brian, could you introduce the women's book group?
Sure. On Thursday nights, the women's group meets, and right now they're going through Sacred Belongings by Kate Armas. We'll post the link on the Good Medicine Way wall for that, because it's an online group, and Christine Morales is heading that up right now, and there's a tag for her and that, and you can email her to get the passcode to get in the meeting. And Sacred Belongings is set up in a devotional style, and they do one of the devotions every time they meet, and they go ahead and they read it there. So if you don't have the book or you haven't been participating, you can still jump in and have a good time. So yeah, all the ladies, Thursday nights at 7 p.m.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, the other thing is, announcement, in July, we talked about it. We're gonna be taking a couple of weeks off because, it's always a big busy time for travel and for holidays and visiting. And so we're gonna be taking off from Good Medicine Way Live the July 8th, 15th, and the 22nd. And I have two speakers scheduled for the first. So I want to work with you guys. Helen, you're one of them, and Eshe is the other one. But the first, I have both of you down, but I need one of you to volunteer to do the 29th. So Helen or Eshe, whoever comes up first. So that's good. We got plenty of speakers. So we're having a couple of our own be speaking for us. And then while I'm here at Nate's Symposium, I'm going to be running into dozens of potential speakers that will be here. Got theologians, missionaries, pastors, scholars, and all. They're going to be here in person here. So many of them will get to meet. And this year, announcement, Laura, my wife Laura, and Sean Dean, my daughter Sean Dean, are going to be present here at the symposium this year. And they've been invited, and then it's going to be a really good time. Other announcement is that we made it here safely. We drove, starting on Sunday afternoon about 2:30. We drove all night, just to fill you in. If you looked at my Facebook post, I shared a couple of pictures. We drove into Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and shared with Sean Dean, who had never been there, kind of like some people have put it this way, having a third world country in the middle of our United States. It's a very different feel just coming into the town. We got there early, so the coffee shop wasn't open yet, so we took a ride straight out and we went out to the Wounded Knee Memorial and got to see and spend some time there and see the mass grave and read some things that had taken place there on big billboards that they had about the site. We went back into town and we sat down and we had it's kind of like a little bit of civilization in Pine Ridge, so we can get a quality cup of coffee at a place called Higher Ground. So we were able to do that. After that, we headed out to St. Francis on the Rosebud Reservation, and we visited our late brother Richard Twist's gravesite. Sean Dean and my nephew Randall had never seen it before, so we spent some time there. Then we took a trip into Mission, South Dakota, where we were able to visit the community college, their bookstore / craft store / clothing, apparel, everything you wanted. And whatever medicine you wanted, they had it there. What really was neat there is that they had 3-foot long sage bundles. They were like really, really huge. So that those were there. And I made a deal. I was able to pick up this little guy here. It says a medicine wheel. It's a porcupine quill medicine wheel that I'm going to be displaying on my hat for graduation here. That's taking place. We left there. We took a ride on into Chamberlain, where we went and seen Dignity. Many of you have ever seen it. It's called Dignity of Earth and Sky. I think I can pull you up a quick picture that might be able to share. This, I don't know if you'll be able to recognize it, but this is kind of taken from way down below by the feet of Dignity, and it's about a 100-foot tall sculpture made out of metal that sits in Chamberlain, and she's wearing a metal frame of a star quilt. It's really, really cool, and on the top of that big hill. So that's what we did today. We're now in town here, kind of recuperating, and going to be with you all tonight. So other than that, we got other busy times that are coming up. Like I said, we got NATE Symposium with several of us that are going to be there. And then we have the InterVarsity group that are going to be joining us on June 17, 18, and 19. They're going to be staying overnight with us, and we'll be hosting them in their listening group here in Albuquerque. So with that, I think we'll close with the announcements, and I'll turn it over to Brian for the working on the our giveaway time. And as you know, go ahead.
Okay. I just actually have a couple announcements from in the house here, so we'll let Laura speak to that.
Can I move this to the camera?
Let's see, let me turn the other camera on. And then it's that other, so if you kind of stand
This
out
one?
here, no, it's the other one. If you, yeah, there you go. You're getting towards it. It's a little one, not that big one, but
Oh,
the,
this one.
yeah.
Closer, closer. Hi, everyone. I wanted to show you our next In Context newsletter. This is hot off the press. We have a featured story on Terry Wildman and Darlene, who sang for us. And it's a 2-page story. Third page here is an article on our Circle of Healing, gently unwrapping trauma through community education. The fourth page is an article on food for thought, where we have a campus ministry at SIPI and the University of New Mexico, and we're trying to reach out to Central New Mexico. And of course, a couple of announcements here. And I want to give kudos and a shout out to right here, Ken. That's Ken. He's the one who helps us. We just write, and then he really fixes it up and does the colors and the design and everything, and he's just amazing. So if you would like electronic version, please let Casey know. If you would want a hard copy, let him know and send him your address, and we will mail this out to you. So I just wanted to let you know this is our next version. It is the spring-summer version, and we'll have a quarterly. And then my second announcement, or just a follow-up to the Circle of Healing 8-week program, and just for a couple of individuals that are here for the first time, Good Medicine Way hosted, we got funding for a trauma-informed group, and myself and my daughter, we facilitated. It was 8 weeks, and we went over a curriculum called Triumph Over Trauma, and we incorporated some Native teachings to that. And when we finished that event, or the series, in April, we asked the women what would they like to do next. And so that transitioned to a new group, and we're calling it Activity with TEA at the end. And we had our first event May 21st, and we met here, and they wanted to paint with acrylics. So we had one individual that I know help us learn how to paint on canvas. So, and the pieces that came out from that event, the prompt, because we just had a white 8 by 10 canvas, and the prompt was to paint your medicine. And that was the only direction you had, and you had your canvas, your brushes, and your acrylic paints. And
what produced that night is amazing. There was 13 individuals, 3 people were here for the very first time. And then we asked them when would they like to meet again, and we're looking at August, and they want to try making tie-dye t-shirts. So everyone is welcome to come, guests, friends, and it's just something where we can just kind of grow from a group of support, camaraderie, laughter, just something to do that kind of takes us out of the busyness of the day and spend time with friends. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Any other announcements? All right. So we'll move into our giveaway time. So in house here, we have a blanket that we put our giveaways and offerings on. I will share online our QR code blanket. And then also on the Good Medicine Way Facebook page at the top, there are links posted that will take you to a PayPal interface where you can give online that way, and this QR code will also get you to that same thing. You don't have to be on PayPal to use it. It's just the interface that we use for that. And while you guys are all doing that, we're gonna sing Psalm 40, the U2 version of it. And if you're in-house here, that was those other lyric sheets. Waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined and heard my cry. He lifts me up out of the pit, out of the miry clay. I will sing a new song. I will sing a new song. How long to sing this song? How long to sing this song? How long, how long, how long, how long to sing this song? You set my feet upon a rock and made my footsteps firm. Many will see and hear. I will sing a new song. I will sing a new song. How long to sing this song? How long to sing this song? How long, 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 how long to sing this song?
Thank you, Brian. That was absolutely heart touching. Eh? That really touched my heart there. Thank you. Thank you for that special blessing. All right. So now we'll be going into reading Creator's Word. We'll be calling on Heaven today to read the same scriptures from last week. Acts 9, 1
Acts
through
9,
6.
1 through 6. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Then the 10 through 12, as you remember, and Acts 10, 1 through 3, and 9 through 11. So go ahead and take it away, Heaven.
A rampage of threats and murder. Man who questions Saul was on a rampage, breathing threats and murder against the followers of our honored chief, Creator sets free, Jesus. He went to the chief holy man and asked for written documents to give to tribal gathering houses in the village of Silent Weaver, Damascus. This would permit him to take any followers of the way, men or women, bind them in chains, and take them to Village of Peace, Jerusalem. A voice from the world above. So on his way to Silent Weaver, Damascus, just as he came near the village, without warning, a light from the spirit world above shone down all around him. He fell to the ground and then heard a voice speaking. Man who questions, Saul. Man who questions, Saul. The voice called out his name twice. Why are you pursuing and mistreating me? Man who questions Saul trembled with fear at the sound of the voice that was coming from the blinding light. Honored one, he asks, who are you? I am Creator sets free, Jesus, the voice answered, the one you are pursuing and mistreating. Now stand to your feet and go into the village. There you will be told what you must do. That is 1 through 6. So 10 through 12. Find it. Guidance from the sacred vision. Now in that village there was a man named Creator shows kindness. Ananias, a follower of Creator sets free, Jesus. He was given a sacred vision from the Great Spirit. Creator shows kindness. Ananias, the voice called out to him in the vision. I am here, honored one, he answered back. Get up and go to the house of Speaks of Well, Judas, in the village pathway called Straight. There you must ask for a man from Tree Village, Tarsus, named Man Who Questions Saul. He is praying right now. In a vision, he has seen a man with your name come to him and lay his hands on him so that he might see again. That's the end of 12. Acts 10, 1 through 3, a powerful vision. Now there lived a man of Chief Village, whose name was Little Horn. He was a head soldier in the young bull band of the people of iron, the Romans. He was a spiritual man who had deep respect for the Great Spirit. He, along with his family, gave with a big heart to the poor and prayed to Creator at all times. One day, in the middle of the afternoon, he had a sacred vision. He could clearly see a spirit messenger from Creator coming toward him. Little Horn, the messenger said to him. Little Horn could only stare at the spirit messenger and tremble with fear. What is it you want, honored one? He asked the messenger. Your prayers and gifts of kindness have been remembered. And then 9 through 11, another sacred vision. On the next day, as the messengers were traveling and coming close to the village, stands on the rock, Peter climbed up onto the flat roof of the house to send his voice to Creator. It was about midday. He became hungry and wanted something to eat. As they were cooking the food, he fell into a trance and had a sacred vision. He saw an opening in the sky and something like a large, soft blanket that was being lowered to the ground by its 4 corners. Thank you.
Thank you, Heaven. That was very beautiful. Okay, so now we'll be going into our centering and stillness time. as we prepare to listen to our Uncle Casey as he offers part 2 of his Dreams and Visions presentation. So we'll be hearing the Native American flute video provided by Joe Lopez. So go ahead and take it away, Brian. All right. Thank you, Joe. It's very beautiful. Our relative Joe Ronimo did a great job on that. And one thing that I really enjoy about this space here is that we're all able to share like beautiful and sacred moments together, and that we experience creators' many gifts through one another. So I'm very thankful for Joe to share that with us. So, all right, I'm gonna hand this over to Brian, who will be introducing our speaker. So go ahead and take it away, in-house.
All right, not much to say that you guys don't already know about Casey Church. Pokagon Band Potawatomi married a really wise Navajo woman who brought him down to Albuquerque, and that's where they've been living for quite a few years now. Casey's been in the contextualization fight from very early on, so a number of decades he's been involved, and he shared some with us last week, and we're going to continue this week about the importance of dreams and visions for our own walk with Creator, and also for understanding your sense of calling and direction. And so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Uncle Casey.
All right, you gonna allow me share screen?
Yeah, you should be able to.
Okay. Oops.
We can see it. I'm not sure what you can see or not see, but
Yeah. I, I don't know if it's come through.
yeah, we can see your presentation view, but I don't know if you can see it to change your slides or not.
Yeah, I'm trying here. Hope I can do this. Share. Using screen share.
Your arrows are down in the bottom left.
Okay.
That's your arrow right there, where your mouse is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you click, yep, and that just moved to the memorial.
All right. Okay. I'm going to just go through. I'll go through some of the pictures here, kind of leading up to where where I'll start tonight. So some of the images that you'll see here are from the movie Thunderheart. This is where Lavoy, a native FBI agent, is running, and then a little glimpse of what it means for me to go uh, meet with a psychologist. It's going into the ministry. I'd answer questions, and that's the image of the symposium logo. This is the church I grew up in, and this is the little boy that grew up there in that church. This is my grandma and grandpa. My grandpa there, my grandma is full blood Potawatomi, and my grandpa is full blood white. Hey, this is where I had my vision, my first vision to go into ministry, and it's a Keewatin Indian mission in Upper Michigan, not the UP, but Upper Michigan, like the Finger area. A book by a friend of mine, Damian Costello, Black Elk Speaks Catholicism and Lakota, and Colonialism, I'm sorry, and Lakota Catholicism. Very unique book. These are my two mentors, both native ministers in the Michigan area who mentored me. This is where I worked. That big machine there is, my job was to put that big machine on what you can't see, but it's at the very base. It's a little black line under the machine. That's a railroad car. And my job was to put that 200-ton machine on that railroad car. And I left that to go into ministry. This is me when I weighed about 140 pounds. And the smallest guy there moving the biggest machine. I sold my house and went into ministry. I went to this college first, and they said, we don't do that kind of ministry, and we probably wouldn't teach what you want. So I went to this school, Grand Valley State University, got my degree in anthropology. And then that led me to study the Medewan Medicine Society and spent some summers going to their ceremonies. And this is the symbol of their Medewan. This is where we started the first all tribes gathering, kind of outcome of that, my dreams and vision. And this is an old Union Hall. Yeah. And we rented Tuesday nights from a full gospel church that was meeting in this building. We started off thinking that we were going to have a grand opening service of maybe 20, 25 people. 80 people came to our first service there. So that was back in 1996. It was during the same time that the World Christian Gathering of Indigenous People was taking place in New Zealand. And some of my former, my would-be future colleagues were at that meeting. Well, I was busy. I didn't attend because I was busy starting that church I just showed you. This is the book that we're doing for our book club on the Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Native. Identity, Belonging, and Rediscovering God. I went into showing how similar and how so much conformity that there is in churches, that they look, they sound, they smell, and they taste the same. There's hardly any variation except, they all have the steeple, I tried to show that there's so much commonality in them, even in the way we sit down in these services. There's no creativity. They're all different colors and shapes, but they're all doing the same thing, sitting in rows facing forward towards the altar. And so much common that many churches use what's called a common lectionary. So every week the people would read and preach from the same books of the Bible. So the quote from our friend Richard Twist, following Jesus the way God made you, kind of been the theme that I carried on. This is the book that a book we first started off. It's called Pagan Christianity by Frank Viola and George Barna. It kind of a name of a book. You wonder why it could be a pagan Christianity. What it is it's showing the roots of early Christianity and how the European people started off and created a Christianity that looked like them. And it started off from within their pagan culture that they lived in. So I'll share a little bit more later on that. This is a great book that really helped me to understand how we need to take the gospel to indigenous peoples, rediscovering. I'll be sharing a little bit about Vincent Donovan. He brought the gospel to the people without them losing their cultural identity. This is the book that I helped. I wrote the foreword to. It's in small print, but you can see under Matthew Milner there. It's a foreword by Casey Church. I'm very honored to be a part of this book. It's about the Potawatomi Ojibwe people of Michigan, and very good read. The Black Elk Speaks. I'm going to refer to this book. And actually, a couple of years back when I was doing program out here in South Dakota, we actually found Black Elk's grave. And it was just west of the Wounded Knee Memorial in a little town called Wounded Knee, and just behind the church called St. Ignace. So this is my great grandfather, Leopold Pokagon, who made a big difference in our Potawatomi by being one of the only family groups to be allowed to stay in Michigan during the 1830s relocation of the natives from Michigan to Kansas. Here's where we'll start. Now that's a picture of sunlight coming through the clouds in a beam of light coming into the world. So that's where I'm going to start reading tonight. And what I'd like you to think about as we get to the end where we got question and response. For the symposium here, I'm looking for some year-generated questions that you would like to ask a small group if they were to hear my presentation and what they would think about it. So last week I did get a couple of questions. So I'm going to read through. You're getting a special kind of a treat because I'm doing a little bit of commentary on it. But when I do the symposium, my daughter Shondine is going to be clicking the images while I read, but I'm going to be kind of trying to do that both. So I might fall behind, I might get ahead, but I'm going to try to do my best to get this to you. Part 2 is called Hole in the Clouds, Dream of a Native Boy on a Vision Quest. So I'm going to try to read here. I did not intentionally seek a native style vision quest for my life and ministry, but that is what I was given. Through the boy I saw in a dream, it was a gift from God. The only way that I can explain how the dream came to me is through the concept of serendipity. Serendipity in the dictionary is defined as the faculty or phenomena of finding valuable and agreeable things not sought for. Where did my desire to create change come from? In a dream that became my life's guiding vision, as I mentioned before, in the year 1992, I was working on a paper for an English class when I was in junior college. So many issues were going back and forth in my mind over this assignment. I went to sleep one night and I had a dream, not just an ordinary dream, but a long dream, or at least it seemed long. During the dream, I watched as a young Potawatomi boy went through his coming of age ceremony with his vision quest. The scene in the dream took place 2,000 years ago along the sandy dunes along the sandy dunes of shores of Lake Michigan. The young native boy was seeking a purpose in his life that was a custom to his tribe. As the boy sat near a small fire his father made, he stared at the fire and he fell into a sleepy trance. As the evening drew near, his father stood watching while the boy slept under the small covering that by the shore of the big lake. The boy was taken away to another land, to a strange place where people that he did not know, and he heard people speaking languages he could not understand. Part 3, a 3D vision of the boy's story. This is where my dream ended, and then I was granted a connected but separate vision. It is my understanding that dreams happen when you're sleeping and visions happen when you're awake. As the dream transitioned to a vision, it seemed as if I was watching a 3D movie, like in Star Wars when they showed a hologram. I was awake, and the scene continued as the boy's vision quest began with a long story. The boy woke up from his dream in the arms of his father, who had been holding him while he was sleeping, since he was tossing and turning, and his father was afraid that he might fall into the fire. As the boy woke, he composed himself. He could hardly wait to tell his story to his dad. His father calmed him down, and he said, "Sit here while I get some food." And so he cooked a rabbit, and he got some water for the boy. And the boy said, "I'm ready to share with you what I saw in the dream. But in my native traditions, I can only give you glimpses of pieces and parts of my image of my dream. But this cup was the outcome of my image that I seen in my dream and in vision. It was that native people worshiping Christ as native people without having to lose their native identity. So this cup I had a person make for me, and with that image I seen in my dream. Now we're going to go on to this image here. A book containing the seasons of my life. Now in the 3D vision, and not the boy's vision, but mine, I clearly was shown the pages of a book containing stories of my life. On the pages were scenes showing the seasons of my life that had already happened. As I turned the pages, I saw many pages showing future events, seasons of my life, but I could not fully understand their content. The more I turned the pages, the more unsettling it became to me, so much so that I quickly shut the book before I seen any further. This is as much as I will share here too, because to share any more is to give my dream away. The application of this. No, it's intentionally put in the screen there to be upside down. I recently had a significant contextual ministry opportunity through Good Medicine Way. I led a book discussion on pagan Christianity by Frank Viola and George Barna. In most cases, the people participating in the discussion of pagan Christianity will talk about the description of today's unbiblical church practices, where they came from and how they developed. But I look at the church practices Viola and Barna explore and turn the method upside down. That's why I show the image upside down, into useful tools. With this total different viewpoint and within my indigenous view of church planting, I used the book to show how creative Europe was in developing contextual expressions from within their own indigenous pagan world over hundreds of years. In the section of the book titled A Second Glance at the Savior, Jesus the Revolutionary, it states, if Christianity is to receive rejuvenation, it must be by other means than any now being used. If the church in the second half of the 20th century is to recover from the injuries she suffered from the first half, there must appear a new type of preacher, a new leader. The proper ruler of the synagogue will never do. Neither will the priestly type of man who carries out the duties, takes his pay, and asks no questions. Nor does a smooth talking pastoral type who knows how to make the Christian religion acceptable to everyone. All of these have been found tried and found wanting. Another kind of religious leader must arise among us. They must be of the old prophet type, men and women who have seen visions from God and who have heard the voices from the throne. When they come, and I pray there will not be just one, but there will be many, they will stand in flat contradiction to everything the smirking, smooth civilization holds dear. He will contradict and denounce and protest the name of God that will earn him the hatred and opposition of a large segment of Christendom. Now, next section here. How am I living out my dream? The vision of this day. Now, as an older man, make sure I'm on the page here. Now, as an older man, I look back on the verse from Joel, and it shall come to pass afterward that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Young sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men shall see dreams, and your young men shall see visions. In my lifetime, I have experienced the prophetic experience mentioned in this verse, both as a young man and now as an older man. I have had dreams and I have seen visions. It is my privilege to have experienced both, and I feel a certain responsibility to act on both. I have paid close attention to my dreams and visions over the years. I know that this is very unfamiliar to many of you who have lost touch with the spiritual realm. But as native people, but as native persons, our phrase, it's a native thing you wouldn't understand, really fits here. The modern world, and especially the modern academic world, has caused a disconnect and influenced people to go further away from the connection between the natural and spiritual world, a connection innate to native people. I don't mean you need to be some kind of tree hugger, but it's deeper than this. It's natural, and it lies just below the surface of our unconscious awareness. Many native people have it, but the more you live in today's modern society, the more you lose touch with this connection. I don't claim to be a mystic, but I do feel a connection with my ancestors that I just cannot fully explain. So this is the group here, the commentary. This is the group we had at Acadia in Nova Scotia. This is the group of attendees that came to the symposium there. Similarly, Handsome Lake, an Iroquois preacher in the late 1700s, had a vision to influence his life in ministry. In it, he was instructed to do the following, in these words. The fourth angel instructed him to return to preaching again to the Iroquois, to emphasize to them the importance of living together in harmony and worshiping their God in their traditional manner. My vision directed me to create a way forward where Native people could worship God from within their Native traditional faith expressions as well. After my graduation from GVSU in 1995, with God's guidance, I formed a small team to bring my vision to fruition in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the way that Black Elk lived out his dual participation in two worlds. Black Elk participated in both Lakota traditions and Catholicism at the same time. Black Elk did not need to deny either one, but could accept both as true, if distinct ways of life. Black Elk's dual way of life would have a hard time being accepted in our modern Christian world, but this is exactly what I intended to do. It was my goal. The problem I faced, as Caitlin Curtis, the Potawatomi author, rightly states about the Christian world, she states, they will get uncomfortable and they will question my faith because it doesn't look like the faith shaped by the forefathers of the church. In essence, the church wants what is white in me, but not what is native in me. I have experienced opposition in contextual ministry from church people and throughout all my life. The church has attempted to force us to assimilate to a point of change, to relocate, or be eliminated entirely. Historical trauma is part of a native life, whether we're aware of it or not, and it affects our view of ministry. But knowing this only pushes me to keep moving forward and create change, change that will help Native people come to faith in Creator Sets Free, Jesus. Here, Vincent Donovan, a Catholic missionary to the Maasai people in Africa, shared exactly what I saw in the vision, saying, "The gospel must be brought to the nations in which already resides the possibility of salvation." He further states that he had to realize that God enabled people, any people, to reach salvation through their own culture and tribal, racial customs and traditions. Early Europeans were determined to create Christianity, Christian expressions from within their own culture, basically from day one. This is what I was talking about in pagan Christianity. When the gospel came to the people of Europe, basically from day one, ironically, they had it right for their own people. The problem was because all of us had a fallen nature, they thought they had God's plan all figured out. They believed they should impose their own cultural approach to Christianity on every indigenous people group instead of allowing them to develop a form of Christianity from within their own indigenous cultural world. Donovan's view agrees with mine and express what I felt about contextual ministry and how I should proceed after being compelled by my vision. He states it so well. Outside of this, I have no theory, no plan, no strategy, no gimmick, no idea of what to come. I feel rather naked. I will begin as soon as possible, but I would like to try, he says. See, I might have fallen behind on a minute. So this is a picture in a news article that the Grand Rapids Press did on our ministry while I was there. You can see quite younger there with the darker hair, and so, but it took off and it really went somewhere at the time. God, let me see, place here. Many who are called by God enter the mission field, proceed using prepackaged formulas created by former missionaries like the Catholic mission workers of Donovan described. They took and applied patterns designed to fit the denominational, theological, and missiological positions of the time, never once thinking outside of the denominational box. This approach was used by most denominational missionaries, Protestant or Catholic. They never imagined a new, better approach, or were always afraid of making waves and losing their financial support. For a few years, I stayed in a comfortable zone, formed by years of tradition to play it safe. And that's why I show this vision, this image here. At first, when I went into ministry, I thought the image of me in the background with the suit and tie, that was expected of me. But after my vision, the vision of Pastor Casey now in his full Northern traditional regalia is the way that I became the new preacher, Casey, the missionary. For a few years, I too stayed in the comfort zone formed by years of tradition. Then the words of Caitlin Curtis, again, reaching into my mind and pulled out what I wanted to say. I was suddenly struck with the reality that if I fight the effects of assimilation in my life, if I speak from my Potawatomi self, instead of from the whiteness I've been trained and taught by to live by, the church will increasingly see me as a threat. The challenge of overcoming the hesitation and apprehension led me to start one of the first, as it would later be called, a contextual Indigenous ministry. Our All Tribes gathering, the one that I showed you that started in the Union Hall, was the result of my change of thinking, and we opened the doors in our launch day in 1996. As far as I know, All Tribes Gathering Grand Rapids was one of the first Native American contextual congregations in the United States and Canada. Up until then, most Native ministers were founded on non-Native churches using liturgies, music, except sometimes they would use Native songs, and the preaching of sermons in a white Western form. They have never, I can't read them now. But that led to other ministries happening later. Let's go with a couple images here. This is what I use in my Christian ministry. Many years ago, I asked 3 elders of the Potawatomi, the Ottawa, and the Ojibwe elders if they would teach me the way of the pipe. And they did. And I told them how I was going to use it, that I was going to share Christ from within my cultural context. As you can see, my Bible is in the background there. So this is the way I present Christ when I do ministry, not having to have people change to the white Western form, but totally worship Christ from within our own cultural context. Just going to share, these are some of the leaders that developed in the 1996 era. In the early 1990s, God placed within several Native American people the same vision to accomplish what God wanted done. Each one of us all had a different portion to play. Richard Twist on the far right there was gifted with oratory and with words and writing. And then Terry LeBlanc in the middle there with the necklace and the black shirt. He's a gifted apologist, very bright. Wendy Peterson in the middle, she's now passed, but she wrote and she contributed in her own special way by starting the Nate's Journal that we did. Randy Woodley in the Hawaiian shirt there, he is just so gifted with words. He's a prolific writer and able to write his thoughts into books that people can understand. And then there's Ray Aldred, now a theologian at the Vancouver School of Theology, native from Canada. So I wanted to share those guys there. And this is some of the other ones, a few that weren't in the first picture. Mark Lavassoure there, the young man on the left there, and then Sherry Russell from Metla from Canada, myself, and Diane there, and then the other 3 that you see. We are all given a way of looking at ministry that was different, but we are all called during the same era of life to do the same thing, but in different ways. This book here kind of shaped the way I do ministry in the future, because he really forced me to look at ministry in a different light, the shape of things to come. He's an Australian, his name is Alan Hirsch. Then I show this picture here that this is the ministry we do here in Albuquerque now, at Good Medicine Way. And that's our banner that we show. And then there's a full picture of my regalia. And I'm just going to go through a couple pictures towards the end here, and then we'll go into Q&A. Transforming Mission is one of the best mission books ever made. It's still used today in several versions. But David Bosch really lays it out that he states, I got his comment here. In Transforming Mission, David Bosch remarks, the mission of the church needs to constantly be renewed and conceived. This is where my vision finds its greatest expression, studying these kinds of books. But this is a kind of, we need to think and we need to dream again about the way we do ministry. It isn't to accept the white Western approach to Christianity, even though that way of doing ministry has had really very good acceptance among Native people, but it was also in a package of assimilation. It was the only package given to us. I believe, and many of us believe, that if we were to express God's salvation within our own cultural context, many Native people would come to faith more than what has happened in the past. So that's what I wanted to share with you now. And then we'll turn it over to a centering time, and we'll go into Q&R. And if you have a question, I'm going to write them down, and your question may be one of the questions that are answered in or asked in our small group sessions after my presentation. So, Brian?
All right, so yeah, we're just gonna do a little Native American flute, just to kind of sit with what Casey shared, and then we'll go into the question and response. All right, so questions, comments? Don't see any hands yet. Anything in-house? But one thing that I think I'd like to hear a little bit more from you, Casey, is making the transition. Like, did you just fully just jump into doing it as native as you can imagine, or did you kind of gradually move from things that people might be used to a more native approach? Did you just take what you knew of kind of the powwow culture and just do your church like that? How did you decide how as you have said, should look, smell, and taste native? How did you decide what that should look like, and how did you help people to move from what they were used to doing it in a more contextual way? How did that actually happen?
Well, it happened over many years. The initial dream vision that I had was like in 1992, about the beginning time that I was starting community college. And that's when I had this assignment to write a paper about an unsolved issue in my life. And that was the beginning. So when I was pondering all of those thoughts about what am I going to write about, and I knew it was the question of why did we have to lose who we are as Native people to become accepted to Christ in a white Western form? And then and it just struck me that Europe did not have to do that. When Paul crossed the Aegean Sea and he came to the white indigenous Southern European people, they created Christianity from the very get-go that looked like them. It didn't look like the Jewish way. And then during the years of Constantine, it shaped itself into basically what we do today. But when I first started moving this direction, I had to do lots of preparation. I had to seek God. I went back to school. Like I said, I went to this Nazarene Indian Bible College because I thought, wow, what better place for a young person wanting to go into ministry to learn about Native ministry than at an Indian Bible college. I thought they must know what they're doing. And when I got there, they basically said to me, no, that's not what we do here. We probably will never do what you're talking about here. But we teach the white Western way of theology and Bible study and Christianity. And so fully disappointed, I turned around and then I went back to Grand Valley State to kind of search again. So it came out of that time. Like I said, then I spent some summers and ceremony time studying the Native traditional ways of the people. And I thought, from friends and relatives that I know who are believers, they worship within that way Creator. Creator sets free. They call him Creator, Akichimanatu, Shamnido, and several other names, but it's the Creator. And there's only one Creator. One man told me, and he says, only you and your dad, my dad Leonard Church, you and your dad believe in Jesus, the Creator. We believe in a Creator, Kichimanatu. And he said, the thing is that there's only one Creator, only we call them different names. So actually they were worshiping the same Creator, but they didn't know him as Jesus Christ. So that was the start of how to make that transition. But that's probably another book. But it came when we acted out and when we used ceremony. That was the big thing, is what ceremonies and what particular things do we incorporate from our Native traditions that we could use in good conscience, that is not contradictory to Scripture or anything dishonoring to God. And as we thought about them and we did certain ceremonies there, with the guidance of the Holy Spirit and with a group of people, in those early days, we had two men. One guy, his name was Randy Creswell. He was a former missionary to Muslims and a teacher at a Bible college. And then I had a young guy, musician, who was also a Bible college student. And through our talking through what kind of ceremonies we could use, we came up with a few. And then I was led mostly by my own heart to say, I'm going to do a funeral for someone who passed, who's a family member, but I'm going to incorporate some Native traditions that I seen while studying the Native traditions. And then they became very acceptable to me, very natural to do, then incorporated. Then I was asked to do a wedding. And the lady that asked me to do the wedding wanted it to be a Jesus believer wedding, but she said, I want it to be in a very context of a Native traditional setting. So that was one of the very first times that she really helped me and Laura to help put together a wedding ceremony that was very contextual, with drum, with dancing, with pipe ceremony, with the congregation there. It was all outdoors. Was able to talk and share. The people, I had open mic time where people shared their wisdom and hopes and dreams with a young couple on an open mic. But I hope to get this all into a book someday that can share more of this, because it was a transition from what do we use. So thanks for that question, Brian.
All right, and it looks like Eshe's got something. Go ahead, Eshe.
Sorry, just realized I was muted. I always do that. I was just gonna say, like you were talking a lot about like packaging, like kind of like native packaging, repackaging the thing. Do you think it's just like packaging it differently and putting like a native spin on it? Or would you say it's like, what do you say, like dismantling some of the Western theology that has been passed to us and reassembling something more authentic and more beautiful that is fully capable of being who we are in that setting?
The easy answer is yes. Yeah. The prepackaged way that we were given by like missionaries that I mentioned, they came to us with already their denominational approach. It was already set and created by their forefathers, and that's was set in place. But it really didn't have what I believe, it didn't have the full impact that it could have had if it was more contextual. It was more white Western based way of worshiping and coming to the faith than like we sang out of hymnals. Basically, there was no indigenous songs created. The songs that we sang were from the 1700s and 1800s. Very good, very good. I grew up with those songs, but they did not meet and it's just me, they did not meet the spiritual needs of the Native people, because it was trying to accept something that was foreign to them. And if we use the word packaged, if we use it in a package that more fit the Native people, there would have been a broader acceptance of Christ than having to take the only thing that was being offered to us. But that's when I say there was just this time and era when it was just an imagination-free zone. The church was just so caught up into doing it only one way that it really stifled what could have been a real surgence of people coming to faith. And some people did it, like Handsome Lake, in those era when he preached. There was another preacher named Peter Jones, who was a Methodist native, who also had great success because he had a way of presenting it in his version of contextual, even though he was a denominational preacher. But every time it was brought more into an indigenous form, there were better results than the previous results without. Thank you.
Yeah, I can, like, as far as like Good Medicine Way goes, because I think you can just kind of take like a standard mainline like church service and just kind of dress it up with native elements. But then you're just really kind of appealing to stylistic concerns without really impacting like the root of the message. You know, if you're just gonna like change the curtains and the paint, but it's still basically the same thing, you know, it might look a little bit different, but it's still basically serving the same way. And, you know, as Casey shared, like that whole approach doesn't connect with many natives, and especially because since the mission movement was so tied into like the government assimilation practices, a lot of people don't want anything to do with it. So like our vision for Good Medicine Way, like when Casey first started talking to me about it, was we recognized that within native traditions, like you go back to the native traditions and the native values, and what the different tribal groups espouse as like these are our virtues and values, that those things had a lot of congruence with what Jesus taught. And in fact, the native traditions typically had a lot more in common with what Jesus actually taught than the kind of American European values did that often get incorporated in the church. So we really wanted to like completely, you know, to use modern lingo, we wanted to completely decolonize the Christian experience and say, let's go back to native virtues and values and traditions and find the ones that have the most congruence with what Creator Sets Free Jesus taught. And let's start there, and let's let a expression of Christianity grow out of those traditions. So to kind of like, if we're able to have like a time machine and go back and like prevent colonization from happening, like what kind of church would have grown up on Turtle Island had Jesus's message just come to the native tribes without all the colonizing that happened. So that's really kind of our vision with Good Medicine Way, is to really kind of try to imagine and facilitate a space for a Christian expression to grow out of native traditions. Of course, that's the ideal. Like sometimes to actually practically make that work, is a little tricky, and there's some compromises you need to make. But that's kind of the light on the horizon that we're shooting for, is to have a completely native expression where you infuse the teachings of Jesus with the native traditions and then see what sprouts up.
Yeah, very good explanation, Brian. Yeah, Brian has been doing ministry for many years, and he has really caught the vision for what we're doing. And together, he fills a spot that a lot of times I don't have the words for. He has the words for. So I really appreciate Brian's input there as well. Very cool. I know it's a deep subject. There's a lot to it, and I'm going to be at a symposium here that the group that I showed you in the group pictures, that over the last 20 years, we have finally come to a point where we have created a seminary, a fully accredited seminary, to pursue creating a Christianity that looks more indigenous than white Western. Even though white Western theology has taught us, it has never come to our indigenous people through the lens of an indigenous person. It's always been through the white Western male, really male perspective. And then when we get over into the native world, we got male and female perspectives that really help us to see Christianity and how we can apply it. And many times I've shared in the past, in many ways, Native American ways and values sometimes are more Christian than the Christian ways that have been taught. There's just been too much of a divide among people. But there's more of an acceptance of people from indigenous ways. But you do get into the different tribal ways, you know. A lot of different tribes, they have their own particular ways and societies and groups and moieties. But then every group has that. So you have to worship Christ within that subgroup. You have to create something that looks like you, that you can express yourself. And then other groups, like I can do it more of in a Potawatomi way that I've understood, but my Potawatomi way of worshiping Christ, I don't impose my Potawatomi way on Lakota people. Lakota people have to create a Christianity that looks more Lakota or Osage or Blackfoot, that way. And it just can't say my Potawatomi way, like the White Western way, has got to fit everybody. No, the idea behind creating a Christianity that meets every culture, because in the very beginning, I think I share with you, is that God created us and put us in all locale around the world and gave us languages in all those different locale. And in those different locale, we created a way of worshiping, and that there was acceptable to him. Even though it gets messed up, Satan finds his way to mess us up. There's something true about it. Laura got her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is, because you've been doing this for a long time, and this type of contextual ministry is, I don't want to say in its infant stage, but and I don't know what stage it is. However, there are many people in many communities that even today would say, whoa, this is really new to me.
Mm-hmm.
And for others would say it's not as new. So maybe my question and thought to think about is, one is the definition of, what is your definition of contextual? Two is, as we proceed forward, and we is very broad, as we all proceed forward in this way of living out our faith, is recognizing that we also are amongst people where this is a new thing to them, and that we would need to recognize that and be mindful that sometimes we speak as if we're in the advance. It's almost like there's a lot of people in the 101 class and others are in the 201, 301. And I'm just saying, it's a call out for all of us to be mindful of, we still have new people who are coming onto this journey for the very first time, or they're hearing things for the very first time. And for us to be mindful is to not get so advanced in our thinking and our conversations, and we forget to keep it at the 101.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's one reason for the Holy Spoke book, because when I was working and writing that, I wanted it to be in the language of people that are new to it. And then the book progresses to where you see how it fits with every chapter a little bit more and a little bit more. So you grow through reading it. So yes, it's new. And sometimes I get rejection from people because it's way new. But if we were to be as colonial as white Western Christianity was, we would say, this is the only way you're getting that. That's it. You come to faith this way, or we move you to reservations, we force you off your land, we genocide you, or we don't give you any other alternative. This is what you get. But no, I think in our native contextual way is that contextual has to be very multifaceted. And it multifaceted also, what you were saying is it has to be very 101, 201, 301, and then let people grow as they grow and be stretched a little bit in their understanding. Because many Christian believers have a hard time seeing what we're doing. And then over time, they do catch on and say, I can see that this probably would be better if we allowed people to have a different take on it and let it be accepted. So, Joe, you're going to be here in a few days, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm gonna show up on Wednesday. So it'll be good to see you.
Oh yeah. Yep. You too.
So I don't know. I've got it maybe a half-baked thought question. I don't know. So I always have this debate in my head of how much am I reaching back? I don't even like to say back, but how much am I reaching over the border back into, say, the church? But I'm also not necessarily doing that the same way. And then the thing that I'm always mulling over, I don't know, like chewing on is by me trying to reach back into the church, is that stifling my forward trajectory, and there's some terrible language in that, but that's what I got.
Yeah. Well, that's very good. Thank you for that, because that is a big part of it. When we're taking on a new paradigm of thought, it is going to take time, because I have battled my way through, even still today, with the new church development committee that we have. Some people get it and some people don't, but they're accepting of what we're doing better now, because some of the leaders that have heard us are saying, there's something here that we need to listen to. So the other leaders, though, that don't quite understand, are giving us a little bit more grace to move forward with what we're doing, rather than shutting us down. So the leaders that are listening to us and see something very positive in what we're doing are influencing other leaders that are kind of on the edge, or on the fence, you would say, I don't know about that. I don't know about that kind of thing you're doing. So it's going to take time. White Western European Christianity grew over 1,000 years. And it's really solid in what they do. Contextual ministry that we're doing has only been promoted since the late 1980s. Yeah, so we're only just over 30 years old in what we're doing. But if you look at where we are now, it's like, okay, we have an active ministry. I know several others that are doing things, and we have a seminary, an accredited seminary. We have roughly 26 indigenous instructors and professors, and 24 of them are indigenous. So we do have white Western professors as well, because, like I said, they're indigenous too, only from their white Western perspective. Yeah, so they have a way of looking at it, and we have a way of looking at it. So it's going to take time. And I believe over the next 15 to 20 years, we're going to have a lot more things happening than just what is happening now. There'll be smaller groups, more people going to our seminary. We're going to be graduating masters and PhDs tomorrow night. In this, we're going to be graduating our first PhD, a Navajo in contextual ministry.
Yeah, I think it's important too to, remember when the gospel message was going out and Jesus sent the 12 out to spread the message. That was also a new thing. Like, that was a really new thing for the synagogues, a lot of the things he was teaching. And, what did Jesus tell those he sent out? He said, if you go to a place and they accept the message, great, build it up, work with them. If you go to some place and they don't accept it and they're not open to it, just shake the dust off your shoes and move on. So, I hear you, Joe. When do you discern, like, when is it a time to kind of try to really dig in and work with people, and when is it a time to just shake the dust off your shoes and move on? And figuring that out can sometimes be a challenge. But I do think that there is a time when you just have to say, these people aren't going to come around to this. That's fine. They can do their thing. I'm going to do what God's called me to do. So, but figuring out when that moment is the trick. All right, Evan, go ahead.
What Laura said made me think about how Jesus never got mad at anyone for questioning, Like, he always wanted to guide people into deeper understanding and bring them closer. So, like, I think about that a lot, especially when it comes to like intertribal customs being shared, because I think people are always like they remember their traditions and they have a lot of respect and honor around them. And so they want to make sure that they're honored and they're shared with dignity. But I also think that's like a challenge when it comes to like coming together for intertribal events, because no one has the same traditions and everyone comes from different grandmas who told them different things. So it always makes me chuckle. Sometimes it makes me think like, we'll never get Matthew 14 right, because tradition is a very relative thing. But I also think that's like why Jesus modeled it was okay to question. It's okay to question as long as you know who you belong to. I also think that reminded me of like how sometimes the questions we have on our heart, we can't even verbalize or even wrap our minds around them, Like, while we're going through our own journey, it's very hard to like verbalize or wrap your mind around deep questions that you have to communicate with Creator Sets Free or Creator. And so like, I think visions and dreams a lot are like the Holy Spirit's way of saying he sees our questions and he understands our questions. And even though we can't like fully understand them, he understands them, and the visions and dreams he sends us are like encouragement. Thanks for sharing.
You're muted, Casey.
Sorry. Yeah. One of the things that's always kept me going over these years is the words of one of my instructors from Fuller is he said, God will not fully be known until he's fully known within every cultural group. His name was Paul Hebert. So I think when God dispersed us, he wanted us to be worshiped from within all of the diversity he created, not to single down and be conformed to one basic pattern that was developed in Europe. Like I was saying earlier, is that Europe got it right. But what they got wrong was that they imposed that way of they figured was right on everybody else. What they did right was create a Christianity that looked like their world. Yes, that's what they needed to do. What they needed to do was plant that concept in every cultural group around the world. Let them create a Christianity that looks like them. Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
Yes, thank you. Okay, I was putting my data down to sleep, so I just posted a text, but I just wanted to verbally state my question. Like if you could describe contextual ministry, and there's three different categories, like when do you accelerate? Like how would you describe when you should incentivate and keep encouraging? Like let's say a church decides they want to initiate contextual ministry. So when is a good time for them to keep encouraging it? When is a good time for them to be silent, like when questionable things happen? And then when is a good time to break, like, you know how the Western mindset is in that regard? Or should there not be any expression of that at all? I don't know if I'm making sense here, but just kind of something that popped in my mind.
Yeah, well, we are living in an era when this new idea is finally taking a foothold. And give us 1,000 years and we might have it figured out. So we can't put ideas and ideals in our mind of what ministry should look like, because we have only been at it. Some of us have been at it 30 years. Others have been at it way less than that. You know, some of the people that I teach, they're as old as when I started ministry, 32 years old. Yeah, so it's going to take lots of time, but it's better that we start now so that people can come to faith and go to heaven than not to do it and face the battles and give up. We need to stick to it. We need to pray and continue to do what we're doing, because 30 years from now, we'll be further along than we are now. And you got questions that are very basic to changing an existing church. One of my key points is that not to change the existing church that you're in, because the way they're worshiping is good and it fits, and they like it. They like it, the white Western way of doing ministry. But there's hundreds of people that are not attending your church because it is so white Western. Here's what you need. You need to start an additional service, not on Sunday. I don't know why Sunday thing is just so popular. It's like, yeah, let's break away from Sunday and use one of the other days of the week to do a contextual ministry. That's why we did Tuesday nights in Michigan, and now we're doing Monday nights in Albuquerque. And I do a longer teaching of, one on that, is that the only reason we do Sunday is that we didn't want to be like the Jewish people who worshiped on Saturday. So we did Sunday. And the only reason we do 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is that's when the farmers were done with their chores. They were cleaned up and ready and they could go to church, and that's when they were done with their chores. That's the only reason we do 10 o'clock on Sunday morning. Yeah. There's other days of the week. Yeah. So it's just finding a way to do something different than what you're doing. Because when you try to change an existing church, all you're going to do is cause strife, and people are going to, fire you, really, and just say, we want somebody else. Somebody else is going to placate us and just give us what we want to hear. But what we need to do is step out of that box, that world, and create another ministry, that reaches the Native people. And there are people who want to do it, but that's not a large number. And we can't think of numbers, we got to think of influence. Yeah, we're not going to create an indigenous megachurch. We're going to create, I believe in the future, we're going to create pockets of small house churches, small ministries in the future. So the more small groups that you influence are going to be better than trying to start a megachurch in indigenous world. Just some of my thoughts. But those are really good questions. I see them. Yeah. And they're all basically changing an existing church. Yeah. But it can be done, but you got to be ready to get a lot of pushback.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I really appreciate input.
Petadaka, go ahead.
All right, Uncle. Hey, I do have two questions. The first one is just kind of wanting to know like some of the battles that you've gone through. Like what kind of pushback have you experienced within the Native community while infusing Native influence into Christian expression? So we'll go ahead and start with that one. Then I have one more after this. So
Yeah. Well, I was working with Huron Claus 20 years ago, more than that, 25 years ago. And we were ministering together in a thing called Church Without Walls. And when I started doing contextual things, he didn't speak to me for 22 years after that. So I lost friendships. I broke ministry partners. That was really hurtful. And there's so many little things that hurt, that were problems. There was always miscommunication. People didn't understand. And basically, I didn't have the words to explain what I was doing better than I do now. Yeah, when I was an early contextual person, I didn't have the theology and the experiences that I have now. So I couldn't explain myself very well in the early days. So what you'll run up into is if you try to change traditional people, they won't accept it. They will say, well, actually, just this last time I was in Michigan, one of the Native guys in the church, an elder, he asked me, what do I say to people that say to me, David, you attend a white Western church and you're a Native person. How can you do that? Don't you see what they did to us? Why do you attend a white church? Yeah. So I went on for the next 15 minutes when I was there, and I explained to him, I said, David, what I've been doing all my ministry is trying to explain to people that we can do that. But even the traditional people are so turned off with Christianity that it's going to be a hard population to reach. Yeah. But there are people like us here who want something different. Most of my whole ministry has been only speaking to people who want to know. I never go to the hard case and try to change them. If I try to change the one hard case, I'm wasting my time when they can tell them once. And I think a seed is planted and they'll germinate on that for a while. But there are 15 other people who will say, Case, we want to hear what you're talking about because our families need that. Yeah, the White Western Church isn't meeting our needs, Case. What you're talking about is what we need because it sounds more native. It sounds like our world and our values. The White Western world is like, that's somebody else's world and it doesn't fit us. So Case, come over here. We invite you to come here or come there. So that's what I did. I only went to people who are receptive. I never went to trying to change people who are negative. Next question.
Okay, that's thank you for the answer. My second question is, do you think it is possible for like other native groups, like within different tribes, to like replicate a gathering like this? Or like duplicate it in a way?
Well, we're an example, a really good example of what one group can do. You know, we were forced into this, and everybody knows that we were forced into going virtual. When we started off, we wanted to only do, basically, we really only wanted to have an in-person congregation. I mean, back 5 years ago, 2000, but then March of 2000 hit us and COVID forced us to not meet. And so we went virtual and Brian spoke about that. So we created this monster and now we got to keep it going because God's using it. There are lots of people, not just you guys, but there are lots of people that view us during the week. And I get calls from people that are viewing us during the week and they're saying, what you're doing, there's this lady in New York that comes to our book group. She just, I think some of you heard her when she was on that one night when the preachers were there. And I asked you all to share what Good Medicine Way meant to you. She shared that that's a big part of her spiritual walk now is listening to Good Medicine Way during the week.
Yes, your vision is definitely growing, and I'm really glad to be a part of it. But I wanted to show you a little bit. While you were speaking, I actually drew these flowers here. And they look kind of funny right now, but that's what you were giving me. You were giving me some inspiration to just kind of doodle something like how Creator is doing within this ministry. So, but I just wanted to thank you, Uncle. So, yeah, and thank you for answering the questions.
Well, I got one thing for everyone there. This week I'll be speaking. I need your prayers that I know I won't get through it all because I'm going to read fast. And Sean Dean, she's going to be she's going to change the images for me. So I won't have to go back and forth. So I'm going to try to read through fast and get my point across while she changes the images for me. So this is a big event. I haven't done one for 12 years, really. I haven't done a paper for 12 years. So this will be my first one. And it's basically taking me to my retirement years. I'm going to step down from the Indigenous Pathways Board this year. And more concentrate on you guys and Good Medicine Way. So because it needs more attention. Well, thank you all. I'm gonna get ready to go to dinner here now. So I may not. Right. Thank you all very much.
Yeah. thanks everybody for the questions, and thanks Casey, yeah, for sharing. And we'll do our round dance here, and then hopefully Namar still conscious. He can close us out.
Walking humbleness before Creator, and He will lift you up. A bruised stock, He will not break. Yes, He will lift you up. Walking humbleness before Creator, and He will lift you up. A smoldering fire He will not put out. Yes, He will build you up.
Hey, all right. Thank you, Brian, for that wonderful song. Hey, all of us were jamming too. Hey. But yes, Namar, are you there?
Yeah, we had
I am
Ben
right
Grayworth
here.
was thrown down the steps.
Hey. All right. So we want to thank Uncle Casey Church for talking with us tonight and sharing us a sneak preview of what he is going to be sharing during this week. So sounds very good. I'm very excited to see how the reaction is with all the Nate Symposium people. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hand this one over to Namar for our send-off blessing. So go ahead and take it away, Namar.
Right. Yes, I am here, and Brian, I am very conscious. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Pops. It's always great to listen and learn from you. I really appreciate the obedience that you have carried within yourself and with your family and with your friends. The vision that the Creator has given you, and you have taken on that challenge. You have taken on that mission and purpose, despite all of the obstacles that would be thrown at you from the enemy and the obstacles that you still face throughout this journey. So I really want to thank you and commend you for that, and for allowing many people like myself to be a part of the journey with you. You are a blessing to many. Many people are blessed by the Creator through you and through Mom Laura, through your children, my siblings, Shandine, Aliliba, Najoni, Desba, Bahujoni, and all of my adopted brethren. So I cannot thank you enough, and I definitely want to pray for your safe travels through the through the states as you go to the NATE Symposium. And I would have been able to make it, but I'm going to have to work on those days of the symposium. But I am sincerely going to do my best to make it to the symposium after this, the next one. So if you could please pray for me about that, I will appreciate that. All right. Thank you for the music, Brian. You are quite the show off, but in the best way. Thank you for the words of wisdom for all those who have shared and all of the questions that were asked. And now, without further ado, let us get into prayer. Creator sets free, oh Jesus. Thank you for another day of life, surviving through another day's journey, another weekend's journey, another week. We thank you for these days that you have made and the rest that you have given us. We rejoice and we are glad. We thank you for this word that has come forth, this study of the history of your children who are spreading your gospel contextually in the way that you have made us, in the way that you have made us uniquely, and through our different cultures and through our different experiences, our perspectives as indigenous peoples from wherever tribe that we come from, it reflects a beautiful image of you. It reflects the wonderful, profound image, the holy image of you, O Creator. We bless our brethren, our leader, Casey. We bless his family, and we trust in you to keep them into your mighty hands, especially as they travel to the NATE Symposium. And we trust with great faith, O Lord, that your word will come forth and that you will speak and change the lives of many scholastically, through academics, through conversations, through revelations. We ask that you go before us to lead us, behind us to push and encourage us, above us to cover us, beneath us to lift us, and in us to fill us with your great spirit, your Holy Spirit, that our lives will give glory and honor unto you and unto you alone, and to do so in the way that you made us, not in the way that we have been forced to do it and that we have traditionally done it for many generations. Let us be the paradigm shift as declared by Vincent Yellow Old Woman, the Shashika Blackfoot, dear friend. Thank you for the fellowship. Thank you for this community. Thank you for this calling. Thank you for this message. Thank you for gathering us all together and for being in our midst. Please keep us safe and protected from harm's way as we go through this week's journey. Thanks be to you, glory and honor unto you. In Creator Sets Free name, oh Jesus. Oh, may it be so.
Aho. All right. Thank you, Namar. Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, glad you were here. Yep, pray for us. We're going to be journeying back on Monday, Sunday night, Monday. So another 1,200 miles here. So we got another 1,200 to go back. Take care now, everyone.
All right, Pops. Have a good one.
All right, see you guys next week.